To our July 14th Douglas County Board of County Commissioners meeting. We want to welcome those of you who are with us at the Douglas County Courthouse, as well as those of you joining us online. Just to pass on a bit of information on how we will conduct our hybrid meeting. All participants will be entered into the meeting with their audio muted, meaning the commission and the public will not be able to hear you. Presenters will be unmuted when their agenda item comes up. We ask that all online presenters use good conference call etiquette and mute their line when not speaking and introduce themselves each time they speak. If you have public comment on an agenda item or under regular public comment, if you're in the courthouse with us, please come to the microphone. If you are online, please use the raise your hand function on Zoom. Staff will call on you and unmute you. We ask that speakers give their name and address for the minutes. The county reserves the right to shut off the microphone and remove any speaker from the meeting if they are vulgar, rude, or inappropriate. A recording of this meeting will be available on our website after the meeting. We will get started with our consent agenda. Would either commissioner like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
No.
Would anyone in the public like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay, we are looking for a motion on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Reed, I move to approve today's consent agenda, items 1.1 through 1.7.
Second.
All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will move on to general public comment. Do we have anyone at the courthouse for general public comment not related to one of our agenda items? Do we have anyone online for general public comment? Okay, we will move on to our regular agenda. We will start with item 3.1, Indigenous Community Center presentation and update. I believe we have a presentation for this item.
Commissioners, while our guests are coming up, I'll ask that I'm going to run your PowerPoint for you. So if you don't need to touch the screen, but do touch the green button immediately to speak, and I will pull up your PowerPoint.
It's not a green button.
It's a button.
It'll turn a light green on the
Oh, this one?
Yep.
Okay, just speaking in this one then? Okay, thanks. Yeah, but I'm ready for the PowerPoint. All right, well, thank you. My name is Robert Higgs Jr. I'm a member of the Permian Lake Paiute Tribe of Nixon, Nevada. And I'm the chair of the Indigenous Community Center here. And with me is Frida Gipp. And want to say something?
My name is Frida Gipp, and I am part of the Indigenous Community Center Ad Hoc Committee, which started, I believe, back in September. And I know we had Commissioner Reed join us early on. We appreciate your support at that time with our groundwork that we did.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for adding us to your agenda. We appreciate, taking the time, and we look forward to collaborating on anything. But we're going to start off with introducing the center, how it became, our strengths, values, goals, and mission and vision statement. Introduce our ad hoc and board members, and end with the question and answer portion, along with the recognition of Indigenous people worldwide. Next slide, please. Now, as you all know, Lawrence is a very diverse community with numerous cultures and ethnicities, and requires an approach of inclusiveness and understanding. And our community at the Indigenous Center currently consists of Native American and tribal people from a variety of tribes. Native people not only represent, but have a history in the creation of this country. And in 2019, the United States Census listed the population of Native Americans in Lawrence as 2,700, or 3% of the population. Now, American Indian, Native American, Indigenous are terms used interchangeably to describe the original inhabitants of the Americas. And the term Indigenous was adopted by the Ad Hoc Group for the name of the center. And it not only represents Native American people, but other Indigenous groups as well. And our hope is to have a multicultural board and staff that understand the different nuances of Indigenous people while providing support and assistance. Next slide, please. So the timeline of the Lawrence Center is as follows. In 1972, the Lawrence Indian Center was founded. 1997, organizational mismanagement and name change of the name changed to the Palate Indian Center. 2003, first formal agreement of the Palate Center with House of Indian Nations University. 2007, Organizational restructure, decision by the board due to revenue streams. 2009 plus, Palathe closed its doors due to funding issues and programs moved online. 2020, pandemic and needs of the Indigenous community. Center, September 2020, a community meeting, in-person, social distance, and online to gather input and discuss the need for an Indian center. An ad hoc group was created to explore and gather input from the community. 2021, board member recruitment held and seated in March. Ongoing work on a strategic plan, bylaws, articles of incorporation, and an incubation site. Next slide, please. Now, the struggles with the past Indian Center do not reflect our current position and leadership. We have an all-new board and ad hoc group dedicated to the needs of the Indigenous people. Our strengths include expertise in the fields of education, nonprofit organization, community leadership, and community health. We have strong social networks and connections in the Lawrence community, and we also have national connections that help us develop our services, programs, and resources. Next slide, please. At our center, we hope to establish a space to help support all aspects of Indigenous life. Our center will be a place to gather, a place dedicated to serving the Indigenous community, a place to support growth. This space would provide services, tools, and resources geared toward individual, family, and community growth in the areas of education, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. It'd be a place to gather, to empower. The space will provide programs in the arts, culture, sports, leadership, and wellness hosted and guided by Indigenous folks of our community. Next slide, please.
I think I'm too short. Sorry, there we go. Okay, don't want to make anybody have the Blair Witch effect out there. So our ad hoc group, as you can see, Judith Gipp, Tanya Lorenzo, Ruben Littlehead Sr., Amy Holden, Bill Paris, Dion Prue, Rain Charger, Sam Ridingen, myself, Paula Smith, Jeff Cornish, Lori Hasselman, Jasmine Bates, Leah Roslin. As you denote, fall 2020, those folks were very helpful to us. We met from September to March monthly. And we started our board development with the support of the United Way. They have been very helpful in helping us get off the ground. Our board members are Robert Hicks, President, Leah Wisdom, Vice President, Crystal Perkins, Secretary, Laura Hurley Hobson is our Treasurer, and Monique Mercurio, is at large and our committee chair. So we're very grateful to have these folks. These are all volunteers on the ad hoc group and all volunteers on our board. And we are still looking for folks to join us, and we'll talk about that towards the end. We also want to recognize Elizabeth Keever, who helped us develop our mission and vision statement, and Lori Hasselman. And they were just amazing at doing this. We did a survey, we got feedback from folks. We looked at the words that people were using. We looked at other Indigenous community centers nationwide. And we really wanted to focus on what it is that our mission could be. And of course, everybody says, make it short, make it sweet, but we also wanted to make it meaningful and intentional. Of course, the vision down there is we want to be a place to engage folks. And we want to create understanding relationships with the greater Lawrence community. I think that's one of the things that when folks look at what we're trying to do, the questions come up, questions about, how many tribes are here, or, and they all mention, Haskell or KU. So we want to be very intentional about looking at the broader scope of our entire community. I also want to give credit to the Indigenous Community Center logo that was developed for us for an artist who used to be here locally. So we're appreciative of that. Next slide, Jill. So when we met back in September, we had a little exercise. We were actually outdoors, and we had an exercise where we had sticky notes, and we also had Facebook Live, and we had people just texting us. But we found that these were the areas that folks wanted us to kind of hone in on. These are the things that people said were needed. Of course, we knew in the pandemic that there were lots of gaps, and that showed everywhere. And so we knew that people were, Robert works for a very good organization, KSNAF, and I know that he's been working on a resource on that side. I work at Haskell, so this is kind of like my volunteer passion project. But my family would get, for example, emails or questions about, hey, so-and-so needs help. I think even through our little group we do called Mini Mocks, which is a free track and field club, we actually gave out one time $25 gift cards, and you didn't have to do anything but email it. And we saw the need that was there. So it's kind of those things that when people came together, you look at youth engagement, education, employment, job training, safe and thriving community, language and culture, entrepreneurial activities. I want to say Lawrence has an amazing set of folks. I was asked a couple of weeks ago by a person, is there a place for Indigenous people to go get like food or supplies if they're crafting? And I said, no, we're having to, search on the internet, or maybe somebody can borrow. So, we feel like that there are those needs there, youth engagement, housing, just all these different things that have that folks are wanting us to think about how we can help not solve the problem, but resolve the problem, and connecting to the various resources, which United Way is connected to us with the Human Service Coalition and through Jill Joliker. So that's been amazing, because all of those things we've been able to now have a very thriving social media, which I credit with Lori Hasselman, Rain Charger, and Robert here in hosting and providing that information to folks. And so what's next? Well, our plan is to seek a nonprofit status, both state and federal, apply for grants, create an investor video, and secure space. And I'll let Robert share a little bit about that. And then we have an accountability strategy, because I think we have to be transparent. I know people like to use that word all the time, but we do. We have to tell people what's going on. So I was very grateful for the Douglas County Commissioners to offer to host Robert and our folks to come in and to share and what we're doing, what we hope to do, and how we want more people to invest not only, their resources, but also their time. And so we'll have another monthly meeting, likely in August, once school starts and we can get things going. We also want to create an elders council to help guide us and move us through the process. And if you don't mind, I would like to have Lori come up. She's our spokesperson, and have her share a little bit about our social media and how that's going.
Hello. I'm Lori Hasselman. I help manage the social media platforms for the Indigenous Community Center. I also am a trio advisor at Haskell Indian Nation University. So we would like to continue to promote our transparency and also network with the community by continuing to be open with our social media platforms. And so we've been really diligent in creating some partnerships through those kinds of platforms by sharing other community partners' content, and also sharing our own content. So did you already go over this? Okay, all right. So that's basically it. I mean, we've been really successful in creating some really great partnerships in that way, and how we kind of feed off each other with other support groups in the Lawrence community. And so that's worked really well, and we look forward to continuing that in the future. Thank you.
So I wanted to end with a recognition of Indigenous people. As you know, Indigenous people are very diverse and everything. Let me see real quick, move this up. Yeah, I'm gonna read this. It is an estimate that there are more than 270 million Indigenous people spread across 70 countries worldwide, practicing unique traditions that retain social, cultural, economic, and political characteristics that are distinct from those of the dominant societies in which they live. Spread across the world, from the Arctic to the South Pacific, they are descendants, according to the common definition, of those who inhabited a country or geographical region at the time when people of different cultures or ethnic origins arrived. The new arrivals later became dominant through conquest, occupation, settlement, and other means. Among the indigenous peoples are those of the Americas, for example, the Lakota in the USA, and the Mayas of the Guatemala, and the Aymaras of Bolivia. The Inuit and Lutins of the circumpolar region, the Swami of the Northern Europe, the Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders of Australia, and the Maori of New Zealand. These and the most other indigenous peoples have retained distinct characteristics which are clearly different from those of other segments of the national populations. Next slide, please. So yeah, we want to have to open it up to any questions about the center or anything like that.
This is Commissioner Portillo. Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm really excited to hear about the progress. I'm very excited to see the social media kind of come out and be able to follow that and promote that as we can. I guess 2 questions. You mentioned kind of space pending, and it sounded like there might be an update, just if there is one. And then the second question is, how can we best support the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So we're working on a deal right now with the Sunrise Project of creating a shared space so that we can collaborate together. But yeah, I'm going to be talking to them tomorrow, and that should be like one of our like our space pending kind of a thing. But
I guess how you can best support us is, one is I wanted our board to, be introduced formally, because I feel like that gives credibility to the work that we're doing. And secondly, I think that has opportunities arise. Have read some of the economic development plan and some other things, and the I think it's the Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, the anti-poverty plan. And so those pieces in there, those platforms in there are things that I feel like that align with what we're doing. And I think that you will find within this community, Lori doesn't sell herself. Now she's amazing. Like, for example, she's kind of our unofficial spokesperson, the work that she does and the work that she does with students. So I think we have folks out within our community, not only artisans, but in education and in the field of, wellness and things like that, that are not waiting to be asked, but waiting to look for the opportunity. And I don't know, to be quite honest, I've lived here. I'm sorry, I also have to think how old my son is. 27. I lived here 27 years, 28, maybe 28. I've lived here 28 years in Douglas County. And I feel like it's been a reset button in the last couple of years. And I don't know if the pandemic had anything to do with that, but I think the outpouring of support and outreach that people have for us is inquisitive. It's important to ask questions. I think there are some things that come up with missing murdered Indigenous women. I think there's things that come up with Black Indigenous people of color as far as employment. I think, as I drove out of town today, I saw the big pretzel thing there, and I thought, well, that's great, but what else are we going to do? I think I think not too long ago, Lori shared something where Peasley Tech had a couple of opportunities. But I think the thing that for me, education being first, is really trying to find out how we can move this community into a place where they understand their local history and what it's built on. And, even the issue with the Call Rock, I think there's a lot of things we could talk about, but we can't solve them all tonight. But I think support. Of course, we're always going to say funding, and we go to the United Way at this time to be our fiscal agent until we can get set up with our nonprofit status development. And that to me would be a great source of support to help us. Those are difficult forms to do, and you want to get them right the first time. And so we want to be able to do that. We're not asking somebody to fund that for us. We're asking really for help to kind of help us get that moving. I don't know if Lori might have anything else.
Yeah, what Frida said. Thank you so much for having us. We look forward to partnering with the Douglas County Commission in the future, and look forward to moving our center forward. So thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to, I think actually you answered all the questions. So I guess I just wanted to comment that I'm really glad to have this presentation and to see how much progress has been made in, has it been about 9 months since you had that first gathering? And I was really proud to be there. And Palate Center was actually my first volunteer experience in this community. And so I used to help with the food pantry there. And I know that when that center closed, it was a really big gap in a part of the community, and that was felt for a lot of time. So I just appreciate everybody's efforts. And I think you all have done a really wonderful job at gathering the entire community and really looking for lots of different voices to join that and be collaborative. And so I just appreciate that energy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add to Commissioner Reed's comments. It's exciting to see how you've connected to so many organizations. That's really the purpose of that Human Services Collaborative that we have. It's neat that you've worked with the United Way. That's great. I know some of your strong connections with the school district, and I think that's neat to see. It's neat to see that our community is welcoming and supportive of that, and was happy to see that a staff member from Douglas County is on your ad hoc group. And I think that's hopefully a way that we can be listening to what's going on for you, and you feel like you have a conduit to the Douglas County Commission. So great work on your part. It's exciting to see what's next, and thank you.
If I could be so bold as to throw one more thing in there. School's about ready to start. And one of the things that we want as Indigenous Community Center is for all our students at KU and Haskell to be welcomed. And so if there's any way that something can come out to welcome our students when they come back, their first day of classes are August 23rd. While I appreciate our friends on the Hill, I also think it's important that we extend that welcome to those students who are coming from over 140 different tribes, villages, rancherias, pueblos, nations to this fair city, and to be that opportunity to have them. We have a lot of students that leave Lawrence and can't wait to come back to Lawrence. Lawrence, the two words I always hear somebody tell me is Lawrence is a destination driver for folks, and I believe it is. So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come before you. Appreciate Jill Jolliker's help and the Human Service Coalition, because right now we have students who are looking for housing rentals, so we'll be looking for those kind of lists, and anything that you can throw at us and help us with, we certainly appreciate it.
Commissioners,
so
I
much
wanted
for
to
joining us
also
today.
offer you, as it relates to space, one of the requests that is approved, was included in the 2022 budget, was part of the Human Service Navigation and Assistance Program, was a human services hub and a nonprofit incubator program. And to be transparent, one of the organizations that has helped kind of plant that seed has been the Indigenous Community Center, and that it lines up very nicely, as Frida noted, with the community health plan, not only the target population, but one of our key strategies that is resource navigation, service provision that's targeted to our BIPOC community. We've been very intentional about looking at the organizations that are already existing in this community that need to be, need some to be lifted up. And if this program can help support them, we look forward to doing that. But there's a lot of overlap. I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge that.
Thank you. We really appreciate you joining us today. Okay, we will move on to item 3.2, Douglas County Food System Update.
Yes, give me just a minute and I will move, if she's not, let me move Kim Kreiner Ritchie over and I'll pull up her PowerPoint.
Jill, I also have two members of the Food Policy Council joining, Tyler L. and Elizabeth Keever, if they could join as well.
You bet. I think I got everybody. Okay, and I'll pull up your PowerPoint in just a second, Kim.
Okay, thank you. And while we're waiting for that, I can actually just, thanks, Jill, can actually just kick off here. Thank you. I want to thank the commissioners for having us here tonight and allowing us to share an overview and highlights about current work happening in our food system. My name is Kim Kreiner Ritchie. I'm the Sustainability and Food Systems Analyst within our joint Lawrence and Douglas County Sustainability Office. And I'm here tonight with Tyler Lindquist, who is the chair of the Douglas County Food Policy Council, and Elizabeth Keever, vice chair. And commissioners, I did submit a supplemental document from us, which you understandably may not have had a chance to look over, but it's for your further reference on more information on the topics that we touch on tonight, that if you have further questions or want to follow up further on that.
I'm sorry, Kim, give me just a second. It's not cooperating with the Google Slides. Give me just a second. I think I'm gonna
Oh,
download it. Give me just,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you might have to download it. So what I would start with is to ground our collective food system work within the Douglas County Food System Plan. So the food system plan was created in tandem with the update to the comprehensive plan, was adopted by both the City of Lawrence and Douglas County Commissions in 2017, and is incorporated by reference into what is now Plan 2040. The plan itself is founded on principles of inclusion and drew from the experiences and perspective of residents from diverse cultural, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds through nearly a year of public engagement. And a significant component of this engagement centered around the employment of 9 community coordinators who gathered food system experiences as a trustworthy source to their community circles. So this collective community visioning resulted in the 5 goal areas of our food system plan, which hopefully we'll be able to look at on slides. You can go to the next slide, Jill, if you're able. Back one. Perfect. Okay, so collective community visioning resulted in these 5 goal areas for our food system. So this document now guides the food system work of the Sustainability Office, the Food Policy Council, and because this was a community created plan, we also see progress and success being carried out among numerous community partners as well. So throughout the following slides, you'll see that we've pulled policies directly out from the food system plan to emphasize that this is a plan in action, still 4 years after it was adopted. So I will turn it over to Tyler to introduce the Food Policy Council.
Thank you, Kim. I'm Tyler Lindquist. I'm the chair of the Douglas County Food Policy Council. Jill, can you advance the slide? So I just wanted to first provide a brief overview of the Douglas County Food Policy Council. Douglas County established the first food and farm council in Kansas, and currently there are now 39 existing or emerging councils in the state. So you can see on the map there, by the color coding, you can see the current counties that are have active councils and those that are emerging. The council was established by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners in 2010 and became a joint county council in 2013. There are 16 member positions whose appointments are divided between the city and county commissioners and provide representation of the Douglas County food system. The council strives to be inclusive of all types of agricultural practice in the county, lived experiences in our food systems, as well as professional expertise. Our purpose and work falls foremost in 2 categories. 1, to advise the city and county commissioners and staff on local policy opportunities or barriers to a thriving, equitable food system. And 2, to convene those partners in the community best positioned to carry forward initiatives and projects to further food system goals. You can advance the slide. So last summer, in the wake of even more violence against Black, Indigenous, and communities of color in our country, and the systemic racial health access disparities exacerbated by COVID-19, the council publicly released an equity statement, which focuses on renewing and elevating the equitable intentions of the food system plan was founded on, and to work as an ally in our community to eradicate structural injustice, particularly as it impacts the health and quality of life of people of color within our local food system. Within that statement, we are committed to pursuing equity and leadership training for our members, applying an equity toolkit to current and future work, and working to address underlying causes of inequities, which include, but are not limited to, race, class, poverty, education, and criminal justice. We know our commitment and learning will be an ongoing and evolving process, In 2021, we kicked off our year with a 2-session equity retreat facilitated by Crystal Bennett with Thrive LLC, which explored trauma stemming from inequities in the food system. We recently formed an internal equity advisors group, which will hold our council and its leadership accountable for making forward progress on our commitments. Also, 2 members of our council have applied to be part of a 2-year Community of Practice, or COP, through the John Hopkins Center for a Livable Future, which will examine and discuss values, race, and power in food policy councils, I should say. We hope to hear they are approved this week. Our actionable priorities to remove barriers that inhibit food system equity will grow as we implement our renewed intent to examine our work, especially through our 3 working groups, which are Food and Farm, Health Equity, and Forward, which looks at food waste and recovery. Advance the slide, Jill, please. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to highlight recent examples of how the Food Policy Council is directly progressing the goals of the food system plan through the 3 working groups. So first, we're going to look at Food and Farm. They're currently focused on Goal 1, Objective 1.1, which is to develop local food and agricultural businesses. The working group has spent a considerable effort collecting public opinions about the current state of our agricultural industry in order to assess community perception about the priorities of economic development within the sector of our economy. Responses are being cataloged and synthesized for publication in Douglas County's response to the Kansas Department of Agricultural Strategic Growth Initiative. Responses will also be used to prioritize the work of the Douglas County Food Policy Council and its mission to identify the benefits, challenges, and opportunities for a successful, sustainable local food system for our community. So within these listening sessions, there were several questions asked. One of them was, from your perspective, what is important and necessary for agriculture and related businesses to be able to thrive in Douglas County in the future? Top responses included entrepreneur support, policy reform, and consumer demand. Another question, what does an ideal or desirable future of the Douglas County agricultural economy look like in your mind? How is it different from the present? Top responses included more local food, more small and medium-sized farms, and investment in inspiring farmers. A third question, what does an undesirable future of Douglas County agricultural economy look like in your mind? What would you dislike about it? Top responses there included local farm consolidation by large corporations, farmland redevelopment, and all conventional farms. You can also see here the top 3 opportunity sectors that were identified, which are specialty crops, ag and tech entrepreneurship, and food processing. Okay, you can advance the slide, Jill, please. As mentioned, the FPC has been fortunate to form many strong and sustainable partnerships. Lawrence Douglas County Public Health has been one of those partners. During the pandemic, our community saw an uptick in interest in home gardening and community gardens, but we also recognized that the capacity of our current garden program was pretty full. At the same time, we listened to other community partners, which recognized that not all gardens are considered safe and welcoming spaces if other people don't see others like them, or if they find initial knowledge of gardening a barrier to them. Furthermore, we acknowledge that hunger exists beyond food deserts, so these delineations are not a good determinant of where a garden should go. Together, the Health Equity Working Group started brainstorming a community-led garden establishment process where we would flow the community's lead in where they would be most successful, where most benefit would come from, and enjoy a new garden and help set up that garden for success. They formed a coalition with public health, who then wrote into their fiscal year 2022 chronic diseases and risk reduction grant the funds to pilot this community-led process and establish 1 new garden in Douglas County this coming year. Also, incidentally, through a multi-partner project as part of a past public health CDRR work plan, another program evolved called Purposeful Plates. Purposeful Plates was the result of a University of Kansas study commissioned by the Food Policy Council in early 2019 to examine food service providers' perception and knowledge on food waste. This led us to partner with the Lawrence Restaurant Association to further the conversation on what food waste strategies exist, but more importantly, where the challenges and barriers exist not only in reducing food waste, but also for food recovery. This led to a multi-partner meeting between public health, the council, the Lawrence Restaurant Association, Solid Waste, Just Food, and KU to share our findings and formulate a plan to develop a toolkit that would both decrease food waste and increase food recovery from food service providers. Over several months, the toolkit, developed by KU graduate students under the direction of Dr. Susan Harvey of the Department of Health, Sport, and Exercise Sciences, and with inputs from the members of the LRA. In March of 2020, just as we were about to finalize our pilot program, which would have involved several restaurants downtown, the pandemic struck. As you know, the restaurant industry took a devastating hit, and in July of 2020, we officially put the project on hold until the restaurant industry in our community has had a chance to recover. We're looking to reconnect with the LRA soon and hope the pilot can one day continue. As you can see, our working groups have been quite busy and continue to formulate new projects, advancing the goals and objectives of the food system plan. Now I'm going to hand it back off to Kim, and she's going to provide some additional ways the plan is showing up, not only in our council's work, but in others as well.
Thanks, Tyler. You can advance the slide, Jill. So as mentioned earlier, sustainability staff also look to the food system plan for guidance for what our community has asked to see in a successful and resilient food system. We provide staff support to the Food Policy Council in their efforts to shepherd the plan. We also spearhead initiatives from a staff side, as well as take things from the Food Policy Council capacity onto potentially a broader community level. So some exciting current examples of this include our community compost and food waste reduction grant, which is currently active. This was awarded to the county last fall from the USDA Office of Urban Agriculture. It is a 2-year grant, approximately $90,000. Douglas County was one of only 13 communities in the country to receive this first-time grant. With the grant, we were able to hire a food reduction specialist in our office, Jamie Hoffling, to oversee 2 pilot projects directly informed by food recovery and waste reduction strategies highlighted in the food system plan. One, gleaning produce seconds from area farms for distribution to local agencies, and assessing the feasibility of integrating food waste into the City of Lawrence yard waste facility. Both projects launched in late March of this year, and since then, over 800 pounds of produce have been gleaned from 5 Douglas County farms, including our initial grant partner, Moon on the Meadow Farm. These were distributed to 4 food agency partners, including our initial grant partners, Just Food, Sunrise Project, and the Community Shelter. And on the compost side, 12,830 pounds of fruit and vegetable discards have been composted from our compost partner, Just Food, who is also playing that dual role with us and being our very streamlined compost collection site or compost supply site that we are taking that over to the yard waste facility and watching the results of that addition of this organic material and the moisture that comes with it to the existing operation. And we are already seeing indications that the introduction of this material is speeding up the composting process, which is a very desirable result. Next slide, please, Jill. Okay, so the partnerships with ethnic food retailers in our community date back at least to the origins of creating the food system plan. In gathering community stories, Connie Fitzpatrick, who was one of the 9 community coordinators in that process and who is now on staff in our sustainability office, began noticing common themes among ethnic food retailers, including location challenges, marketing, and infrastructure needs. Later, through a grant funded by the Kansas Alliance for Wellness, the Food Policy Council worked with the KU Center for Community Health and Development to further explore these themes with 6 ethnic food retailers here in Lawrence and Douglas County by interviewing owners and also their regular clientele. The study documented the value and the sense of community inclusion that these stores bring to those that they serve, as well as the challenges faced by these small business owners. Through the COG grant, we were also able to offer mini grants for small infrastructure improvements to help these stores better meet the needs of their customers. Connie has since used the study to introduce the stories of these retailers to the Kansas Department of Commerce, Kansas Creative Art Industries Commission. And as a result, 5 local ethnic food retailers are now the focus of a pilot project by the commission to use the intersections of public art and economic development to promote Kansas businesses. So these locally installed projects will include convening the retailers to provide tailored marketing and small business support, public installations of art by Kansas artists who have cultural ties to the cuisines of the stores, and cooking demonstrations by the retailers hosted at the Culinary Commons at the Douglas County Fairgrounds. And if this program is successful, which why would it not be, the commission intends to replicate this in other Kansas communities. Next slide, please. So due to the high level of relevance that the food system plan has in our community, having been created from collective vision, staff and the Food Policy Council members have had opportunity over the last couple of years to take part in a number of community planning processes. We were able to elevate and build upon the already adopted community voiced priorities of the food system plan. So for example, the Food Policy Council and staff have supported the Lawrence Farmers Market in advocating for a permanent location and adequate amenities for their market for several years now. And this is now, the farmers market specifically, and a site for it is now cited in the draft of the downtown master plan. The Lawrence strategic plan, within their strong and welcoming neighborhoods outcome, we have been able to elevate food production on public land, as well as transit access, not just transit, but transit, biking, and walking access to healthy food destinations. The latter also is in alignment with goals that we are voicing, or we have voiced along with other community wellness partners for the Lawrence transit route redesign. So there's a great synergy with these plans happening at the same time. And then the Lawrence Economic Development Strategy has an entire strategy related to local food business development. And we're actively working on weaving strategies from the food system plan, from goal area 1 in particular, the thriving local food economy, into this plan. Now, of course, everything I just mentioned is somewhat Lawrence centric, but the food system plan has also been used as reference and co-planning in the community health plan. And we look forward to doing the same when the community health plan update comes, as well as the upcoming climate planning process for the county and the open space planning process for the county. So we look forward to again elevating adopted food system strategies into wider community plans as well. Next slide, please. The Common Ground program was launched by the City of Lawrence in 2012 with the main purpose of taking underutilized public land to grow food. So currently the program has 10 sites totaling about 9.5 acres. It serves more than 200 gardeners and 8 aspiring farmers a year, and countless others who access their public harvest features. The models of these sites range from an incubator farm for aspiring farmers, traditional family plots, public harvest areas, and communally maintained spaces. The model is up to the gardeners, but we ask each site to uphold 2 values. Each site must be open for participation by anyone in the community, and each site must establish a community benefit plan that is appropriate for their model and fits their means. And these can include food donation, managing a public harvest area, inviting youth programming, and also mental health partnerships, and many others. So with the inclusion of food production on public land now as part of the Lawrence Strategic Plan, the Common Ground program is poised for growth and enhancement. Next slide, please. In March of this year, the Sustainability Office, on behalf of the county, applied for a 3-year, $330,000 grant from the Kansas Natural Resource Conservation Services that would build capacity for staff, provide curriculum development and training for our aspiring farmers. We'll also pilot a beginning farmer apprenticeship program at the farm where we can bring on, even earlier aspiring farmers to train under our farmers out there. And it will also serve to implement soil health and conservation practices at all of our common ground sites. With the added staff capacity, we will then be able to strategically plan how to equitably grow this program, not just in Lawrence to meet the strategic plan, but throughout the county where it can benefit the rest of our community. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Last bit about the grant. We have received very favorable feedback. We anticipate an award, I dare say, and that should be confirmed by the end of the month. Next slide, please. So when Kansas announced its Strengthening People or Revitalizing Kansas funding initiatives for COVID recovery last fall, and seeing that food system funding was a large part of that, the Sustainability Office acted quickly to coordinate technical assistance for local food businesses and nonprofits in effort to remove any barrier that the application process might present for members of our food system receiving that relief. Of the 24 Douglas County businesses and nonprofits that received funding, this was the most awards to any county in the state. 12 of those directly participated in the offered technical assistance. So what this equates to is by leveraging less than $2,500 of County CARES Act funding approved by this body, we were able to facilitate that assistance, remove barriers to recovery and capacity building, and resulting in 244,000 of the larger number here received by those who received technical assistance. So this is a model that we felt was very successful, and one we will be holding on to as future recovery opportunities become available. And with that, I will turn it over to Elizabeth to talk about some of the more widespread community impact.
And to just kind of round us out here, the food system plan is truly a community plan, and the work that is happening every single day in Douglas County is informed and driven by the food system plan. And you can see this across all 5 goal areas. I could keep you here all night, and I don't think you want me to do that, talking to you about the examples in the community, but I'll just talk about 5 right now across all the goal areas. So in goal 1, thriving regional food economy, we've got groups like the Lawrence Restaurant Association, who we work very closely with, that are working together to build and develop local food businesses that not only support the businesses, but promote local food purchasing. And this was seen last year more than ever. As you all know, restaurants rallied around one another and their staff to create the Hospitality Workers Relief Fund, as well as fill in the gaps for the school lunch program in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And goal 2, we've got the conservation and resilience of our natural lands here. And we've got groups like K-State Research and Extension, who through the Growing Good Neighbors program are informing producers the impact of pesticides, and the Growing Growers program that provide workshops and training for existing and potential area producers. And all of these efforts promote the vitality and sustainability of the over 210,000 acres of land use that is devoted right here in Douglas County for agricultural purposes. And goal area 3, we've got access to healthy food. And there are so many incredible examples in our community. But one really big celebration of the plan is the growth of the Double Up Food Bucks program. So Douglas County and the Lawrence Farmers Market and their efforts to grow this program to create the accessibility of fresh and healthy food in the community for those utilizing food stamps. So this program was started in 2014 as Market Match, and it has grown since then. Right now, today, the farmers market even has the opportunity for you to triple the dollar. And this really helps convert the $10,000 that is distributed here annually in Douglas County for food stamps use, and making sure that as most of it as possible can go back to the local food system to help that economic multiplier that happens when you purchase locally. And in goal 4, under equitable food systems, we've got groups like the Sunrise Project that are engaging in education and outreach through workshops and community dinners around the role that food plays in not only celebrating diversity in the cultural heritage of food, and this also includes their emphasis on growing regional and culturally appropriate foods in their community garden and in through their youth program. And in goal 5, we've got waste elimination, food waste elimination. And organizations like Just Food are growing food recovery efforts every single day and growing it to help promote access to healthy food all throughout the community. So we've got partners like Lawrence Public Health and After the Harvest that are finding new opportunities through the grant that Kim mentioned to recover food from areas that had never participated in food recovery before. And last year, Just Food reached its goal of finally achieving 1 million pounds recovered within a year. And this goes and helps Douglas County all throughout the community, serving over 20,000 Douglas County residents a year. And we are so grateful for the Douglas County Commission for the support and for the generosity of the work across the board in the community. And we will continue to do this important work across all 5 work group goal areas. And we are open to any questions that you all have. If you want to move to the next slide, Jill.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And it's really wonderful to see all of the collaboration in our community around this. I don't have any specific questions, just a lot of gratitude for all of the work that the Food Policy Council does and all of the work that you all have put in, along with all the community partners.
This is Commissioner Reed. I'll echo those sentiments and say I'm just super impressed with the work that you all do and how intentional that work is, and especially thinking of Connie's leadership in that project with the ethnic grocers and small businesses. Like that's been really exciting to follow, and I appreciate what an intentional project that was really born out of listening to the community. I did just have a couple questions. One is a clarifying question. I know Common Ground was started by City of Lawrence. Are all of those gardens and land plots within the city limits of Lawrence then? I know there's one out on like near TP Junction, but is that technically city land on the?
It is technically city land. They are currently on city land. I will say that in particular, the incubator farm that's out by TP Junction does not just serve Lawrence. We do have farmers that come from elsewhere in Douglas County to farm here. And you know, from the economic development information that Tyler shared, you might remember that beginning farmer training was one of the top things that was felt to be needed to assist with food system success. So we that's a program that we certainly see a need to expand, and hope that we can do that in the county elsewhere.
Cool. And then kind of along those lines, I'm also just curious about partnerships with, and I'm sure that slide that was just up wasn't totally exhaustive, but I saw that the Lawrence Chamber was mentioned on there, but I wonder if you guys have connections with Eudora and Baldwin City Chambers. And then additionally, I know KU you've had some strong partnership with KU students and tapping into some of those resources and research opportunities. Do you have any established connections with Haskell Indian Nations University or Baker University that are specific to any of those goals or some of that work?
Yes, the first question was about chambers, correct? So we do have a pretty blossoming connection with the director of the Baldwin Chamber. In fact, she has invited myself to take part in their economic development work group down there, so that so the Food Policy Council, myself, can be more in tune with what the conversations that Baldwin is having with economic development, which I think is very important, that we're sharing practice and we're in tune with what each other is doing in the county. I would say for Eudora, myself, that's something that I could foster more strongly. In terms of university connection, we have not yet engaged with a Haskell class, to my knowledge, though we have communicated and worked with some members from, like, the library garden has shared with us on the food system tour last fall about what they have going on in terms of the native foods that they're growing on their campus. So just creating connections between gardening opportunities in the community. Also, Frida Gipp, who had just presented, is serving on one of our working groups, the Health Equity Working Group. So we are hoping through that relationship to create stronger ties and opportunities with working with them.
And I'd like to mention by proxy, Just Food works with Sacred Ground, and it helps support some of the food that is provided within the food pantry there, and are excited to support the food needs of the Indigenous Resource Center as well.
Thank you all. I don't have any other questions.
So first is Commissioner Kelly. Wow. I mean, that is a lot of stuff that you just presented there. And I'm just really appreciative of all the work and the really purposeful focus that you have on your work and your ability to not just create projects, but go find funding for projects. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck on that NRCS grant. That would be amazing. One of the things that jumped out at me, and I'd just love to hear a little bit more about it, is, a purpose of the Food Policy Council is policy reform. And I was really pleased on our consent agenda. We didn't pull it off, but I was really pleased in the BIPOC farmers and ranchers statement that you have. Are there other policy things that the council is thinking about? I mean, that is part of our charge, is setting policy. And so I'm interested in any other discussions you've had about that.
So I would say that a lot of our efforts have been focused on the community planning processes, because as those plans become adopted, they do become policy. So we consider that, having these things stated as priorities in our community by our leaders, that's giving us charge to work on them. We do see opportunity potentially with the economic development survey results. As we synthesize those and present them to the public and find major themes, there may be something that we bring back to the commission to ask you to embrace as priorities for our community. And then we, as I mentioned earlier, we see other countywide planning processes coming down that will certainly include climate policy, open space policy, which will all have implications for land use, soil, water, and which is where I know this group is really looking forward to activating around Goal 2 of conservation. This will be one of the most meaningful opportunities for them to partner on progress in that area where they have had, like they have not before.
Thanks for that, Kim, because that really sort of jumped at you. I mean, there's a lot of strategic planning, and in there from the city, but that's
Yeah.
not something. So it was nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear on your comments there that there's some things coming from the county as well.
Absolutely.
We are part of the comprehensive plan and the food policy. That's in the comprehensive plan. So I think there is that alignment there, but I just want to make sure that we're thinking county-wide when it comes to policy, and it sounds like you are. So that's really exciting. Can you remind
Definitely.
us how your office specifically, Kim, where the responsibilities are that lie with the city from a funding situation, and where, what the responsibilities are of the county and how that's laid out? Am I making sense there? We had some discussion in our budget conversations about what percentage of the sustainability office, and I know food policy falls under there. Can you remind us of that?
Sure. So specifically related to food system work, there is a small budget for the Food Policy Council that is $6,800 funded through the county. My position is funded through the county. The city of Lawrence does have a budget for Common Ground. They employ a part-time seasonal farm manager and also have a small operating budget for mostly the farm. So that technical sort of stuff is coming from the city side. And anything else specific? Those are the three pockets that come to mind for food system work.
I just think it's always important to sort of remind our partners, how much support comes for food policy from Douglas County.
Absolutely.
And we are partners in that work. I want to reinforce that. But I think I just want to make sure we recognize the county's work there and how supportive we are of that. So thank you for doing that for me, Kim. Appreciate it. And just appreciate all the work this group is doing. Again, it's a wonderful report and lots to be proud of. So thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you all for joining us today. Do we have anyone here for public comment on this agenda item, or anyone online for public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Thank you all for joining us, and we will move on to item 4, appointments. Do we have any appointments to consider this evening? Okay. We will move on to item 5, Commissioner or Administrator miscellaneous. Jill, do you have anything for us this evening? Do we have any miscellaneous items from commissioners?
I would just mention, it looks like we have a couple of people who came in late, and we may need to, I don't know if they're hoping to provide public comment, but we had public comment at the beginning. So it might be up to the commission to decide whether we used to take public comment after the business. So I don't know if that's why they're here, or just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, we've moved public comment after the consent agenda before the regular agenda for a few months now.
Yeah, it is in between the consent agenda and the regular agenda. So we just finished the regular agenda. I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, let's finish with miscellaneous. Do we have any other miscellaneous items from commissioners? No. Okay, would we like to reopen public comment, or would we like to move forward with our last agenda item, which is adjourning?
I have no problem opening public comment up again.
I'm okay with that as well.
Okay, we will reopen public comment. Looks like we have folks in the courthouse. We'll just remind you, please limit your public comment to 2 minutes and share your name and address for the meeting minutes. Will you please make sure that the microphone is green?
You have to
Is it
press
like-
the button.
yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Hadam Shaheen. I am the owner of Mass Street Legal at 831 Massachusetts Street. And over the last couple of weeks, I've received several phone calls from the community as well as members from the bar with regards to the Holistic Defender's Office that we've heard a lot about. And one of the big concerns was as a result of the publishing from the, I believe it was the Lawrence, it was online last week with regards to the budget. And the calls started coming into my office, probably because my office is centralized. I've been on not only the misdemeanor panel, but the felony panel, and I practice solely here in Douglas County as a criminal defense attorney. The calls were simply because of the budget, and the main issues that I've been receiving is the fact that the Holistic Defenders is asking for $425,000 annually. And it's my understanding after meeting with Judge McCabria, the budget for the last 5 years for simply misdemeanors has been an average of $310,000. So it's roughly $100,000 more. But the calls weren't just about the fact that we're talking about $115,000 extra a year. It's about the conflicts. And so the calls that I've been receiving from members of the bar are that the Holistic Defenders, is my understanding, are requesting to take the misdemeanor panel. They're not going to be dealing with felonies that trail with misdemeanors, which is the majority of the people that are in jail. It's just simply misdemeanors. I assume child support cases, as well as possibly care and treatment. The fact that they're asking for so much money, and the fact that they're not taking a majority of the misdemeanors, and the fact that they're one office, so they're going to be facing with ethical conflicts, that leaves that they'll probably be taking about 45 to 50% of the misdemeanors. So the question I've been getting is there'll be a conflicts panel, and that conflicts panel, now that BIDS is increasing their rates to $100,000, or excuse me, $100 an hour. We have notoriously in this county matched what BIDS is doing. So right now we're 80. I imagine that's going to go up to $100 an hour. We're looking at roughly $200,000 to $280,000 a year to also fund a conflicts panel.
You're over the 2 minutes. If you would just
2
wrap up
minutes.
quickly, please.
So the concern has to do with that not only additional funding for the holistic, but also for the increased amount that we're going to have to put towards the conflicts panel. And then finally, the very quick thing is, when is the RFP opening up? Because I know an RFP is being developed that will avoid this conflict of having the holistic panel with their short conflict list. It'll avoid that and save the budget of about $100,000 a year. So do you know when RFPs will open up so that we can, the proposal can be made? Is there a timeline for that yet?
Your time is up. Thank
Okay.
you. We don't typically respond to public comment, but I will just clarify in our budgeting process, we haven't budgeted anything towards specifically around this yet. We've put it in the commissioner's budget so we can continue to talk through how we'll implement it. And so we're having conversations around implementation. So we don't have specific dates yet. It's been set aside. But the traditional funding for misdemeanors, while the court has only spent around $325,000, they've been budgeted at over around $490,000 for the past few years. So there's a difference between what's been budgeted and what's been actually spent. And I think you're using the budgeted number for one and actual spending for the other. So I just want to make sure we're consistent in numbers. Thank
Gotcha.
you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. My name is Shay Downing. I am a partner at Sloan Law Firm. Our office is at 831 Massachusetts as well. We rent space from Mr. Shaheen's law office. I provide public defense services here for indigent defendants, and I wanted to appear today to basically address a couple of things. One, I have been involved in this process for a significant period of time based on my role on the CJCC, and then moreover, just as a resident and a citizen here. But I had presented essentially what amounted to 3 specific questions related to this topic. And at this point, I would renew those questions. I'm not sure that they've been answered. The first of which was, what is the current issues with the what are the issues with the current system of indigent defense that we are seeking to address. The second is a public defender's system going to either solve those problems or otherwise ultimately result in being in the best interest of this community? And the third is what specific provider Douglas County should be using for that service. I will say that in response to those three questions, the things that I've been receiving as a response is just, well, Holistic Defender's Office has these things to offer. And while I agree that there may be various points that they would be able to address, I've not seen a consistent statement from them about what they are hoping to do. And my request would simply be that the other questions be answered, and the process moving forward is not necessarily to address holistic defenders. I have said, I do this work, but if there is a better system for our community, I think we need to do it. But I am not in favor of answering questions 1 and 2 by saying this particular provider is the one that we're looking for. So I would simply,
Thank you,
I just
Ms.
wanted to
Downing.
make sure my questions were there. Thank you for reopening the comment. We misread the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder for the public, we do have an indigent defense work group that is considering all of the questions that Ms. Downing presented. Do we have anyone else for public comment? Okay, thank you very much. So we will move on, and I believe the last item on our agenda today is to adjourn. Thank you all.